Hello and welcome to the first podcast that we're doing as a group of entrepreneurs. Uh, I'm excited to be here. This is something we intend on doing on regular basis. Uh, so here we are, three entrepreneurs that ended up doing almost the exact same thing, all that are leaders in their space, in operational excellence, and participate in the ed tech. Apparently, both things work in parallel. Operational excellence, continuous improvement, and online training technology, because every time you make an improvement, you're going to have to educate your people on it. Fantastic. Yeah. So right here, I've got with me Riaan from Consult, Gaby from GoLeadIt.com, and myself, Malak Sedra from eSky Solutions. Let's start.
This podcast is sponsored by eSky, a revolutionary AI-powered state-of-the-art learning management system for small to mid-size enterprises.
So here's one thing before we start. Our job is going to try to answer some of the most difficult questions that you guys have. So far, we hear a lot of these little short buzzwords and things that are all over social media that make things sound way too rosy. But as an entrepreneur, it's not always that rosy. So let's start with some of the hard questions. Every time I'm looking on Instagram, on Facebook Reels, all I get to see is everyone is encouraging everyone to be an entrepreneur. Today's topic is going to be entrepreneurship, having a startup. Riaan, do you think entrepreneurship is made for everyone?
Well, Malak, thank you for the cool introduction, mate. I think it's important. We've been talking for a long time now, and I think this is just our natural progression to the next step. Yep. Look, my experience with startups and with entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial, ventures is, a lot of people get into it, but they don't manage their expectations. We get told, you scroll around on YouTube like everyone does, or Facebook, or Instagram, or one of those things, and every second ad or person that comes up is selling something, and they'll teach you that in 7 minutes or 20 minutes. I see that's the key, how long it takes to learn something these days. In my experience, the book that I read a long time ago that says you got to put in your 10,000 hours. Before you can actually, before you get to the point where you know what you're doing, before you know what you're going to put out there. I think that's very relevant. And this whole, there's a misconception about what an entrepreneur is and what is a get rich quick scam. So, look, I don't agree with it at all. I usually just scan past them. So, for those guys, if they, especially all the fitness influencers. If they think it's working, hey, maybe it's working for them, but at the end of the day, longer term sustainable value and results doesn't happen in 7 minutes, mate. So
yes, no. Is everybody meant to be an entrepreneur?
No, definitely not.
Consult.org, redefining global consulting, delivering world-class solutions through proven methodology, measurable and sustainable results.
All right. I can't wait to come back and ask a bit more. No. Gaby, welcome on board. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
What do you think? Lots of talk about entrepreneurship. It seems like it's the calling for everyone. What are your thoughts on entrepreneurship? Because the internet is telling me everyone should be an entrepreneur these days.
Well, in simple, I think there is a major risk that, continuing in the path of entrepreneurship, you have to have that gut inside to know that you can lose everything as well as you can make everything. And not everybody has that kind of mindset to begin with, because it is not a safe route in the sense that you have to explore the uncharted land, and there is no straight path in entrepreneurship. I've never seen two entrepreneurs that have the exact same story. They may come up to a certain destination, a similar destination, but the way they go about it, it's for the person to craft. And you see a lot of the personality types of entrepreneurs is highly creative, abstract thinking, people that can really start with a blank canvas. And some people, that makes them nervous because they really want that blueprint, but sometimes that blueprint does not exist. So, is it for everybody? The short answer is no. I would say absolutely no, because definitely some people need guardrails in their life. They need procedures, they need processes to be well established, they need policies, they need direction, directives, governance for them to feel comfortable and secure. But others just like to jump in the ocean and find their way out, and that's what challenges them and excites them. And they like to go in a place where there is no routes, or and they would create their own routes. And if you look at the extreme,
Yeah.
like those who have built Dubai, which I know that this is an extreme situation, but when you think about entrepreneurship, you sometimes have to think of the extreme like situations where someone was given a desert and then they figure out how to create something out of it. Now, to somebody, if you bring them to a desert, no matter how much money you give that person, and you tell them you have all the money in the world, they can't imagine getting out of that desert. They will just keep it a desert with maybe a few palm trees and do the best they can. But other people will take that and transform it into something that could be glorious. So that's the whole idea of entrepreneurship.
So,
it's not made for everybody to
short
think,
answer, yes or no?
wide. So,
So
no, just like Ryan said, I echo what he's saying. Yeah.
Go Lean It. Go Lean It offers a symphony of efficiency through lean services and solutions, driving scalable and sustainable results. Visit goleanit.com.
All right.
What about yourself, Malak?
I don't know. I was gonna always go with the absolute not everybody's made to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
However, it seems like the world is flipping upside down, and they're trying to make the self-employed economy, right? The hustler economy became. So it depends on your definition of self-employed. When you drive an Uber, are you self-employed? It depends. If you're putting some content on YouTube and all of a sudden, are you an entrepreneur? It depends. So we would have to go define entrepreneurship. I do think the hustler economy, or the singleton or the freelance economy, in a way, unfortunately, it's coming. So not all type of jobs are going to be a stable 8 to 5. Not to be a contrarian, but I do think it's entrepreneurship in itself. If the question was asked to me like fireside, like I did with you guys, the instinct would go, no, just because I've lived the hardships, and I don't know if everyone, is willing to have the uncertainty of not knowing what his next 3 months or 6 months are going to look like.
And that's the reality, yeah? Because, all of us took a leap of faith and all of us had to plan for it. And look, there's, in my opinion, sorry to interrupt you, but I think in my opinion, there's two types of people. There's people that build stuff and there's people that maintain stuff, yeah? If you're good at maintaining stuff, you should not be going into a startup and having to develop processes and systems and build it from the ground up. And the same goes the other way. If you like to build systems and build, teams and build them up and build a solid foundation, you should not just be in a position of maintaining stuff. But at the moment, with our, with the economic situation globally, I do think a lot of people, have got the hustle mentality, like you say, and that's a great thing. I love that. Let's hustle, let's get something done on the sideline. But to actually start a business and maintain it, that's where the fun comes in.
You know what, Ryan? I like what you said, and you're making me think a bit, on my feet right here. I would say, as three, operational excellence guys, and what we do is normally go into companies and help them communicate better, and consult and help them think, right? So we can streamline their process. And the first thing is having a proper lexicon and having a proper vernacular that we all use the same thing. Maybe I should have started. I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe I should have started by saying, hey, what is entrepreneurship to you? And then define, because I guess not every self-employed person is an entrepreneur.
Yes.
But, just hearing you out. So when you're driving an Uber, are you really an entrepreneur? No. I guess the guy that started Uber is the entrepreneur.
Oh yeah, they take, you know what, 35-40% of whatever I earn. So
Yeah. So
it's more like I would say probably more an affiliate program or a you know, something like that.
exactly. Not that, I guess I'm not bashing Uber itself. I think Uber did a fantastic job. They did a crowdsourcing style
Yeah.
business model. It definitely serves me very well. Airbnb serves me well. So all these type of things, but being
But to your point,
self-employed and being an
yeah,
entrepreneur,
it's
I would
two
say are
different
two
things.
different things.
But
So
to
my
your
answer would
point,
be
Malak,
no.
I mean,
I don't think everybody is.
to your point, you know, you look at Uber, you look at most of these overnight successes. Yeah, we like overnight successes because all of a sudden things start happening, and hey, here's this new app that we can use. You know, Uber was in use for 10 years in San Francisco or in one of those cities before it started becoming mainstream. So, you know, all these, there's a lot of, how can I say it? I don't want to use the word bullcrap, but there's a lot of that stuff going around, especially on social media for the younger generation. Yes, so they see Lamborghinis, they see Louis Vuitton, they see all this kind of stuff, but they don't say or they don't realize that is like 0.1% of people on the population, you know, in the population globally that can actually afford those things and that are talented enough. They've got the backing, they've got all this. They've got this machine working in the background to get them there. And then, you know, Joe down the road decides, okay, I'm going to get a mic, I'm going to get a light, I'm going to do the same thing. And then 18 months later, he wonders why this hasn't happened. He gets all depressed, and now he's got to go back to a normal job.
Being an ex-aerospace guy, one of the things that fascinates me is how many people, because I know the cost of private jets.
Oh, yeah.
The cost of operation, the cost of ownership, blah, blah, blah. And like all the amount of young kids or entrepreneurs that are showing off, and he's most probably, having to be doing one leg on a private jet, and he's walking down, and you've got the jet behind him.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, it's fascinating. It's fascinating because the cost of just takeoff and landing of a private jet is enormous. Doesn't mean some people don't have it. I'm just.
I mean, I can charter a jet from Orlando airport to get to Los Angeles. It's going to cost me 20 grand. I can take 8 people and off we go. You know what I mean? So there's a question of what's the upside and the ROI. If it's for a meeting, that kind of stuff. But I think the vision and the dream that's getting put out there is, if you're an entrepreneur or you got a side hustle, you're gonna sell some, I don't know, candy on the sideline. You're gonna drive your car around and sell some lollies to kids. Then you're gonna be able to afford that private plane and the charter and the car that waits for you on the runway. And I do believe it's got a very big impact on mental, well-being across the world, because everyone's comparing themselves to everyone instead of focusing on what they're doing and how they're going to build up and what it is that they're trying to achieve out of this. If you have a good idea, it doesn't mean you're going to be rich. There's millions of great ideas out there. Yeah. I've worked with a lot of people over the years that says, all I need is one good idea, and I've got it. Or I need to win the lotto, otherwise I'm screwed. But having that idea is only the beginning. That's not even when the fun starts. Now you got to take that and make it a reality. Now you got to, build it. Now you got to find your audience. Now you got to do the marketing. Now you got to deal with Google, who's changing their SEO standards every day these days. So there's so much.
Yeah, you can't have a regular game plan, because every time you start making a game plan, a new factor comes in. AI comes and disrupts.
Look at
Instagram
AI
comes.
By
the time you get used to Facebook, they introduce, Instagram. You finally got used to Instagram. Then they have Threads. You're like, what? So I get that. So let's go to something. I'll tell you guys, and this is to the audience watching us right now, what's going to make this podcast more special and why you should tune in. And we ask you to, ring the bell,
make some
follow,
comments,
share, do all that nice stuff. You've got 3 guys that have startups in the same field. With God's grace, with the luck, we ended up being with each other. But here's what's interesting. 3 different backgrounds, different regions, different industries. But more importantly, we're bringing you guys that are in 3 different stages of the entrepreneurial life. Someone that has been doing it, and I'm going to let everyone introduce himself, what they've been doing, okay, and how many years they've been doing it, and you'll understand exactly where I'm going. Because it doesn't matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey. You're either going to be at Gaby's stage, my stage, or Rian's stage, somewhere there in the journey, because it's a journey. So we'll start with the most senior of us all in the entrepreneurship journey. Rian, why don't you give us a quick 60 seconds of who you are, where you came from, and how long did you start your entrepreneur journey?
So, Malak, it's pretty interesting. I'm a South African-born Australian that now lives in the US. So, you know, I'm pretty well traveled. I spent a lot of time in Asia, China, Japan. I fell into, I've always had an interest in doing things a better way. Yeah. That's the way that I was raised. I started working when I was 11 with my dad, who was an electrician. And, you know, he'd have his tools in exactly the right places because that's the way he was taught. And if I took something out there and I didn't put it in the right place, we had a big chat afterwards, if I can say it like that. But look, I'm a qualified chemical engineer. I've worked with some big companies in South Africa, Australia, and now in the US. And, you know, for me, the main thing is, how do I put myself in a position to help other people and organizations grow? Because our biggest thing is, you know, a lot of people focus on the results that they get, but those results are not sustainable. Because why? They don't focus on the behavioral side of things. Yeah. So if you start looking at your behavioral side of things and you incorporate your results and you blend the two and you track that, that's what we do best. And that's how we get to our sustainable results. So started I went out on my own probably in about 2015. My partner's been going since 2001. Our business has been going, you know, all in all for 23 years. We do a lot of consulting globally. You know, obviously COVID gave us an opportunity to get our e-learning LMS up and running, Lean Six Sigma Academy. And that's morphed. I'm in version 4 at the moment of getting that out there. We're still doing consulting, and I've acquired an IT company to assist us with all of the stuff that we do. So, you know, my journey has been, it feels like it's been my whole life, just going from one piece to the next to build up the knowledge and my skills to get to this point where I am now. And I still I still feel like an imposter. I feel like I still have so much to do and so much to learn, that these things, you know, we talk on a regular basis, but for me, these are very valuable conversations, because it's a question of, okay, well, I'm trying to figure out what my next step is, how to stay ahead, looking at my finances, looking at my team, you know, how do I get things in the right places? But, you know, there's always a spanner in the works somewhere, and we've got to deal with it and move on. So, look, I'm also one of those guys. I love a challenge, and you know, I'd rather be working 90 hours a week for myself than 40 hours a week for someone else.
I love that. That last sentence. We're going to come back to that. All right, Gaby, the floor is yours. 60 seconds, who you are, where you come from, and how long have you been on this entrepreneur journey?
Yeah, so I'm Gaby Sedra. I own the company Go Lean It. And so it started off, I started off industrial engineer background. I've had a passion for improving operations and helping out organizations since I was a student. So for me, it was something that I was already immersed in it from the beginning. And I worked with various industries across my career with all the different levels. I came to a point where, you know, a lot of friends and colleagues outside of my jobs were asking me for services and saying, you know what, we're struggling with this in our company, we're struggling with that. And they all had a common kind of theme, which is usually around how do we keep improvements in a sustainable and scalable manner. And I noticed that the problems, no matter what the industry is, it's almost like a box, right? It's almost a black box, which they all kind of have the same systemic issues around, right? And the same top 5 usually. And so I figured that I can be of help with that, with the experience that I have. And whenever I would meet people, they would realize how helpful that is. So I wanted to continue that path. And that's how kind of I got sucked into this. So it's been a year and a half that I've been running this. And now I want to kind of grow it a little bit more. I'm partnering as well with a consulting firm called CCI, which I'm a senior consultant for them. But I also help others through, trainings, consultation, facilitation, strategy deployment, and all of that to bring sustainable and scalable improvement business results for the organization. So
nice. So you just saw Riaan with a combine of over 24 plus years of entrepreneurship. If you're just starting and you want to compare notes with someone who's just starting, a year and a half consulting and lean, master black belt as well, and Go Lean It Academy, which is also an online learning company with all its contact and Six Sigma trainings as well as soft skills. And all of us have some of that. Now, let me walk you guys through my journey. I'm somewhere in between both. So if you find yourself, you've started a business, it's been a few years, it's go, stop, and you had to pivot a few times, I'm your guy. So I'm an aerospace engineer by trade, worked at some of the Fortune 100, 500 companies that are out there, learned a great lot working for companies like United Technologies. They tend to, it was like a good school. You come out and you play with the big boys, right? So what ended up happening after a few years working for Pratt & Whitney Canada, being a control systems engineer, but fascinated because all these big companies, the reason why they can reach these efficiencies, whether it's GE, Pratt, North, all these big companies, the way they can roll, it's all about leaning out their processes. So they ingrained in all of us operational excellence, whether you liked it or not. You became part of the machine. So we started consulting for small to mid-sized companies, me and a few partners. And that was way earlier on in the early 2000s. And I realized very quickly, it doesn't matter how good of a consulting job you do. Because I've done the exact same consulting to some small companies and another one. If the company had a learning and development department or someone who's responsible for dissipating the information, then the consulting we've done actually made its way all the way to the employees. And we actually got results. When they did not, what ended up happening is the information stayed at the C-suite or at the board. We go give our consulting report. You got a whole bunch of amazing. Yes, absolutely. Nothing gets done. They're like, oh, but we didn't get what we wanted the consulting. So I went on a quest starting in 2010 to launch my own business to create what I consider to be one of the most powerful online training businesses, equipped with over 11,000 micro learning courses, to be able to take that training and give access to small to mid-sized companies so they can compete with the big boys. And as time has come, we're transforming the learning management system into an ecosystem that we call LMS plus business enablement platform. So this is my story. So I'm somewhere there in the middle between Gaby and Riaan. Okay, so East Sky Solution, Consult, and GoLeanIt.com, operational excellence plus edtech. Now let's start. I want to discuss the entrepreneurship journey, having a startup. Okay, in both your opinions, what was the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur or about having a startup? Gaby, can you give us some insight?
Go Lean It. Go Lean It offers a symphony of efficiency through lean services and solutions, driving scalable and sustainable results. Visit goleanit.com.
Well, the hardest thing is to, make sure you're holding on to the leads. I think it's getting the leads in general is always going to be a struggle. You're not gonna get customers knocking at your door. you know, I remember someone telling me that you have to maybe contact 10 people in order for you to have a conversation to start with. So just to get that first conversation with you and a client, it takes a lot of effort. You really have to stand out from many competitions. So you have to distinguish yourself, and that's hard in itself because from a client standpoint, they receive a lot of solicitations. So you have to kind of have something
So
very
is it the
special.
sales? Is it the sales, or it's the lead generation, or it's the prospecting, or is it the sticking out?
Well, the sales and getting the sales and pitching your sale, the whole process of sales in itself, that's the very difficult part. You
Yeah.
know, you know, being the first in, making sure that they stick with you, as opposed to going with any of the million consulting firms out there. That's a difficult part. So in the beginning, you have to find that thing that separates you from that element of spark that's special about your consulting firm that others cannot provide. Not, you're not squashed in the noise of all the other consulting firms.
Riaan, do you agree with that? Was that your experience, or was there something more difficult about being a startup and just launching yourself?
I think Gaby's got a good point there. I think there's a lot to say for finding your audience, making sure that because going out on your own is not a small decision. Let's look at it this way, especially, when you're in a situation where you've got a nice car, you got a beautiful wife and two kids that, that drive you absolutely mental. But it's a big step. But before you take that step, you got to make sure that you've got, and this is general. I'm not talking about the Jake Pauls of the world or the, all the YouTube stars and, God knows what else is happening out there. But for me, it's a question of understand your why. Why do you want to do this? And that's something I learned from one of my mentors back in Sydney. Is mate, what we did is a bit of a brainstorming session. I was talking about going out on my own for years, like literally 2-3 years, of actually being serious to put myself in a position where I could do it. But in general, with most of the startups that I've worked with since, it's the first question I ask people is, why are you doing this? Do you want to become rich and famous? Do you want to look after people? Do you want a big ROI? Do you want to drive a Mercedes?
I want a big gold chain with a dollar sign.
No, yeah. What
that wasn't your dream?
A big clock around I'll just be spinning it the whole day, because that's cool. That's what we do, mate. But once you understand your why, then you got to get to the how, and that's the fun part to me. It's like, you understand the reasons why you look at it. So what I've done, years ago, I've got a list of the reasons why I'm doing this. And believe me, every now and again, I have to go back to that list because I get offered jobs all the time. I get offered C-suite positions, all that kind of stuff. But I refer back to my original ideas of why am I doing this? So for me, it's all about, creating a system or creating a program that, is accessible to everyone. The way that, this stuff works for me, and in my experience, having seen it work incredibly well, is the fact that everyone on earth should have access to this, because all it does is, it's like engineering. Yeah, it teaches you a certain way to think. And if you start asking the question why for stuff that's happening around you, like children do when they start learning, Daddy, why is the grass green? Well, I don't know. Let's go Google it, But it's that part for me that is the most important part. Is like, okay, so what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And now let's let the rubber hit the road. Now you got to look at finances, investors, all that kind of stuff. We've never done that stuff, mate. As a startup, you just got to either get someone to help you or just figure it out as you go along. And just to throw out an example, I mean, last month, just in Australia, 1,800 small businesses went out of, they went into receivership. So that's just in 1 month. So we're seeing there's a lot of economical factors that work in on it. There's a lot of people that are tired out there. There's a lot of, supply chain issues.
Receivership, that's bankruptcy, correct?
Bankruptcy,
In American terms?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's bankruptcy. That's in 1 month. And the previous month was 1,300. So you're looking at a country with a population of 25 million people, which is not a lot. I mean, there's more people, in Johannesburg, in South Africa, than what there is in the whole of Australia. And you take that percentage of businesses that's gone bankrupt, that's in receivership or whatever, now have to deal with the outcome of it. And I bet you these guys didn't think of that when they started their business.
I'll tell you what I like about the stuff you're saying, Riaan. You always get me to, when you're speaking, and that's the interesting part about this podcast, by the way, to change what I was going to start by talking about, because we poke at these things, right? So you've mentioned a whole bunch of points. One of which getting offers, to be an executive. I would say one of the hardest things for me was to be able to turn down offers that I dreamt about growing up.
Exactly. And I have to agree with you, mate. My dream was to be, running my own, be a plant manager, be on a board, all that kind of stuff. And it's amazing. It's amazing how your perspective changes, because once you own your own company and you smell a little bit of success and you're starting to see the impact you're having, and then all of a sudden you get an offer, you sit and you think about it and you go back to your why, but you also go, what does the future look like? So now I'm going to go do that. Probably 18 months has been my track record. I'm probably going to get a bit bored and I need something else. But, there's something to say for those temptations that's out there. And there's a lot of them, mate. There's, you can be an entrepreneur and not do anything. You can go sit on the beach, you can go play tennis, you can go play golf, all kinds of stuff. But it's that discipline that comes along with it. And that's where I find a lot of, startups that we work with lack that discipline, which is fun at the beginning.
That thought about discipline, because we're going to go and start talking right now. We were talking about the most difficult thing, but I want to talk after that. What are the, your 3 key attributes that a successful entrepreneur, I mean, thank God all 3 of us, have our successes in our certain domains. And after many hard or terrible sometimes months at the beginning, you start getting the wheels rolling, and then you start figuring out iteratively what works for you. Okay.
Yes.
And by the way, for everybody watching us, what works for you doesn't mean will work for me. Everyone. So we'll get the perspective of Gaby, of Riaan, of myself. What are the 3 top attributes each one thinks a successful entrepreneur needs? Now, on my side, what was the hardest thing? And not that I'm disagreeing with you guys. I think prospecting or getting leads is definitely, or sticking out, and that's what Gaby said, is definitely hard. Being able to be focused, have discipline, and basically know your why, because that's what Riaan focused on. Mine, aside from the fact that emotionally, honestly, I think the hardest thing was an emotional thing.
Yeah.
Being an entrepreneur is emotional. It's a crazy roller coaster, because at the beginning you're excited.
Oh yeah.
You have an entrepreneur's myopia. It's gonna be amazing. Every time I sit and I mentor young guys that are starting their business, like, I'm gonna make an app.
Yeah.
And the market size is 150 billion. If only I could take 2% of that market size, I'm gonna have, and I'm, in 2 years, I'm gonna have my private jet. And you start looking at the business model filled with ideologies. 3 months, cash flow burnout. You sit with the exact same person, and they're at the bottom of the pit, and you have to try to pick them up, and they need to be able to pick themselves up. And then they get one customer, and the excitement comes again. It's this roller coaster. I think the hardest thing for it is resilience.
Yes.
To me, the hardest thing is resilience, because you wake up every day in the morning to go to war. Business is war. You're not ready to go to war, get out the kitchen, because someone else wants to have your lunch. There's a little kid in his mom's basement or in a parent's garage or working with his nephew trying to take you out of business. So if you're not taking yourself out of business, and I'm convinced of that. I'm not just saying that. It's not like a
No,
soundbite.
yeah, I agree.
But my hardest moment was landing my first customer. They say on three F's. Your first customers are three F's, right? Family, friends, and fools. I mean, who else? And you'll get all the nice words in the world. You'll find all your friends will encourage. Oh yeah, man, go make the millions.
Yeah. Get in there.
Okay, well, can you refer me? Can you put me in front of? And everybody starts being shy. You don't have that portfolio. Okay, so that's mine. I don't know what you guys think of that before we switch to the next topic. If anybody wants to add something.
What do you think, Gaby?
Well, I think execution is like you're saying, resilience. I'm hearing you saying the why. Execution at the end of the day is a very important term. How you're capable of assuring that when you do have a customer in front of you, how are you going to manage to follow through on that customer? And it's difficult, but the idea is to be ready with the right energy to do it and for whatever situation. But I'm aligned with you guys. I mean, I think having the right reason to do something, having the right why, and if in my case, I had the right why. I know exactly why I'm doing this. I have resilience, for instance, but it's understanding that when you gotta still distinguish yourself, right? In a market that is very much, so many people are offering services, so many people have the similar desires, but you gotta have this thing about you that you stand out, and that's the part that you need to figure out and execute on that. It's like companies that have really good strategy and they have very good values, but then you look at their strategy execution and it's very weak, and so they end up struggling still. So, even for large corporations, so what is that element of execution that we should have to really, take it from a startup to a growing company? And I think that's the difficult situation we need to deal with.
Cancel.org, redefining global consulting, delivering world-class solutions through proven methodology, measurable and sustainable results.
I think for me, Malak, for me at this stage with this kind of stuff, it's you can have all the dreams in the world. You can have, I want to own a yacht one day or a private jet or whatever. But if you don't have a plan to get there, it'll always stay a dream. And that's what I've been teaching my kids since they were little. It's like, we're all allowed to dream. Dream as big as what you can, because that's the place where you should be doing it. But if you really want to achieve something, have a plan and have a rock solid plan, and tap into resources, tap into your mentors, tap into people that's already done it. Put yourself close to those situations so that you can learn. Because on your own you can only do that much. It's like a lean manager at a factory or in a business. You only have that much reach, because then you have to start counting on other people to do your work for you.
What's the good thing about having a plan? You actually get to try to forecast how long the cash you have in bank will last.
Exactly.
And you'd be surprised how quickly cash burn happens when there is no regular source of income, right?
And that's the thing, you look at, okay, well, I used to get a nice paycheck. I had a nice car, a nice house, all that kind of stuff. It's like, good. If that's important for you, just stay there, mate, because you're going to work your way up and you're going to get, increases that are guaranteed. I don't know, how it works everywhere, but Australia has got some, interesting laws and stuff where people get guaranteed increases. Doesn't matter what the CPI is. And people, they really encourage people to stay with the employer, because they offer long service leave after 10 years with an employer, all that kind of stuff. But I've seen a lot of people be really unhappy working at a company for 23 years, still doing the same thing and saying, listen, 20 years ago I should have done something about this. So my thing is, know your why, get out the wind while you can. I mean, I encourage everyone, but it's not for everyone. But if it's a thing for you, go for it. But have your resources, have your, have a plan, and please fill in your wife with your plan, because, your life, your personal life. I tell you what, my dad has owned business for 42 years. Yeah. Every single time I was with him, my dad, he discouraged me from starting my own business. He said it's the hardest thing he's ever done in his life. And I always thought, nah, it's so nice. You work for yourself. Look, you set your own hours, you come home, everything's cool. Until I started doing it. And I really realized that I'm working harder than what I've ever done in my whole life. And there's been some hard parts. But I've never had this much fun and this much ownership of my own results, anywhere.
If you want balance, guys,
Yeah.
Look at me. You want balance in your life, don't be an entrepreneur.
Don't do it.
Get an 8 to 5. Just find one that makes you happy. Okay? Just don't do it.
That's it.
There is no balance in entrepreneurship. There's none. Okay? I mean, unless you guys correct me, if Gaby, if you think something I'm saying is different or wrong.
No, absolutely not.
100%. There's the only balance you have is the balance you create up here, because you have to, instead of, and you got to manage your time properly. But it's like, even if you manage your time, you still, I take meetings at 2:00 in the morning because we operate globally. I take meetings at 4:00 in the morning, sometimes 11:00 on a Friday evening, So you really got to be able to be flexible and resilient and all of this stuff. But if you don't believe in this, if you don't think that you can see yourself in that, like visualize yourself in that position, just walk away, mate. Go get a job. You'll be better off and you'll be a lot happier.
3 a.m. I was in a call with Egypt. A few days ago, I was in a call with Hong Kong, which is happening literally at 3, 4 in the morning as well. Everybody's dealing globally right now. You want to be an entrepreneur, you're competing with the world.
This podcast is sponsored by eSky, a revolutionary AI-powered state-of-the-art learning management system for small to mid-size enterprises.
So in summary for this section, Gaby said leading, prospecting, and sticking out. You have questions about that, connect with Gaby on LinkedIn. If you're a young person that's starting his journey, wants to have someone who's not that far ahead, so you guys are learning from each other, you can also connect with him on MyNect. Okay, so MyNect is one of those Patrick Bet-David type connections where you can book his consulting hours. If you want to know about your why and learn from someone who figured out his own why and was able to do it, connect with Riaan. Same thing, you can find him on LinkedIn. You can find him on MyNect as well. It's an app that you can download and book some of his consulting hours. So that way you can have it. I would always recommend looking at Simon Sinek's Getting to the Why if you want to know what he's talking about. I think it's the simplest thing. Type in YouTube, Getting to Why, Simon Sinek, really another fellow consultant that I think will bring you to that. But connect with Riaan. He can walk you through it, consult you, and maybe even help you get that business started. I'm also on MyNect and LinkedIn. Reach out. We can come and help you start your business. So, guys, it is really one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life to start the business, or at least go have the conversation with my significant other, with my wife, who's my rock. And I don't think without her, I would have been able to make it, honestly.
Just to interrupt you there, make sure you've got a good wife that's going to stand by you.
100%. Because she's got to be willing to go through
I'm just going to say it because that's how it works. If you don't, you're 50% out of resources.
That's 100% true. You got to have someone that believes in you, because at a certain point, the whole world won't, right?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Even the closest people will put seeds of doubt. Mm-hmm. I had a friend come and goes, weren't you an executive at a certain point? Why are you doing this to yourself? Don't you make more money as an... And I'm like, dude, I thought you were my friend, right? And it usually comes at one of your lowest points. So it's one more slap, right? So you need that friend, that wife, who's at moments your friend. At some other moments, I'm not going to lie to you, she's rough like hell. And she's like, hey, you got to pick yourself up and get going. What are we going to do?
Exactly.
We've got a whole family to pay for. Move on. Get
tough
things
love,
done.
mate. Tough love.
So with that said, guys, I want to move the conversation to, what do you think, Riaan, are the 3 attributes that made you not anyone else, you, Riaan, a good entrepreneur, a good consultant?
So look, I mean, that's an interesting one because I don't usually like talking about myself. So, I like talking to people about them, all that kind of stuff. But if I have to think about the three things that's driven me to this point is, look, the same as Gaby. I'm, background, South African, had the opportunity to move over to Australia, moved my family over there, now in the US. Being resilient, mate. That's a big one. It's like, you got to pick yourself up, like Rocky said, if I get knocked down 10 times, I get up 11. Very, very simple. That's Mike Tyson's love at the back there, mate.
Yeah.
So it's just my reminder. I wake up every day, I see that love, and I go, get up, mate. Let's go for the fight. Another thing for me is, be personable. Be reach out to people. Go, do your networking. Don't be shy. I mean, it's sometimes a rough thing. Like you say, you get to these things in your lowest parts of your, when things
genuine.
go in ebbs and flows. You don't feel like going to a conference. You don't feel like playing golf. You don't feel like talking to people. You got to pick your ass up and go and get it done, mate, because that's the only way you're going to be moving forward. And then I think the last thing for me is, and we've already touched on this, but have a support network. I mean, for me, it's like, my circle is tiny. I mean, I know a lot of people globally. We've got a lot of connections. I've got a massive network. But my close friends and family that really know who I am and what I do, I can count them on my one hand. And those are the people that I trust, that keep pushing me, that's on my side always. Like you say, there might be a bit of tough love, but be careful who you surround yourself with. That's a hard lesson I learned a few years ago. So yeah, for me, that's the three things, mate. And I really enjoy what I do. It's I like the fight. I like getting up. I like the reward. I like, meeting people like yourselves and then building a friendship. It's been an amazing ride, and you know what? It's just getting better every day. So yeah, that's me.
Wise words from Riaan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Riaan. And I love a lot of the points. Again, you always get me thinking, and hopefully I won't change my answers with them because I know exactly who I am. But Gaby, what are the three things that you think have made you get some success and have Go Lean It start being on the map and have people talk about it and give you that success? What has made Gaby a success?
Go Lean It. Go Lean It offers a symphony of efficiency through lean services and solutions, driving scalable and sustainable results. Visit goleanit.com.
Well, number one, creativity. I think it's important to bring the artists out of you, and that's something that this is the opportunity to do so. Really, to express yourself with very little rules. So bring that creative mind that you have. Number two for me would be partnership along the sides with what Riaan says, understanding your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Understanding the areas where you're not going to be able to do everything and you're not going to be great at everything. So surround yourself with good people and partner with people that will help you strengthen that part. And then the third one would be agility. Just be agile. Learn to experiment, because you learn quicker by experimenting. So try things and reflect on the learning. So do quick learnings, daily learnings. Try things in your business, see if it works, and whether it works or not, ask yourself, did it work and why didn't it work? And then reevaluate, readjust, and then keep going. And that's going to help you progress and get quick successes. So for me, these are my top three for sure.
Yeah. So that's honestly very, very well said. Very well. And you see different personalities of entrepreneurs, because we're not all the same. What they're looking for and what they see as strength that propelled them forward is different from one to the other. Mine is different. I was always a man of many passions, and I never knew how to select from any of them. And I was always told, this is my Achilles heel, is what's going to bring me down. You have no focus. Hey, stick to one sport. I can't. Hey, you can't be an artist and an engineer. You choose one. You need to focus and you be an expert at something. And I would say that my three main things, and I'm going to name them. The first one is resilience. The second one is versatility, and then resourcefulness. And versatility and resourcefulness might sound contradictory, but I'll tell you what I've realized. So we spoke at nauseam about resilience. So I'm not going to spend time, because you do have to be resilient. Okay, it's life is a marathon. Being an entrepreneur.
I think if there's anyone out there that's not resilient, they probably sitting crying right now, and they should definitely contact us.
Yes, 100%. Get a good mentor that when the times are tough, they will help you. I mean, I loved what Riaan said about surrounding yourself with the right people. For sure, creativity helps. Not everybody's creative, and not all entrepreneurs are creative. But if you have that, it's a big plus, right? So that's Gaby's big plus.
Yeah.
I've realized versatility because at the beginning, when I started, I'm going to talk about my journey. I didn't have all the money and the backup. We were in Montreal at the beginning. 2010, there was no startup scene in Montreal. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't go and and go get funding because you have a good idea. Nobody cared. So I had to wear so many hats. So that versatility was very important. I needed money. I'll do videos on the side. I'll do consulting. I still did some engineering. I knew how to design. I wanted to taught myself software so I can program, so I could do some things. Being versatile helped me. However, after one or two successes, okay, and you cross that dreaded year and a half, right? You can breathe, and then you realize one thing. Oh my God, I can't do it all. Resourcefulness became big. And the reason I said resourcefulness is because not everything you have to pay for.
Yeah.
You can exchange. I mean, the way we met, us three, is exchange and services are good. We became friends, after a few years of talking to each other. But the beginning was, hey, I can't do it all. Can you help me with this? I can help you with this because I can't do it all. So let's start finding people that I trust and being resourceful. So I know this person can help me with this. I can exchange a server with this person, and so on and so forth. And you start building a network. So to me, the three things for Malak was: one, being able to be resilient; two, versatile; and three, resourceful. Okay. So being an entrepreneur is not the easiest journey. Okay. Do you guys have a particular style in entrepreneurship or in business when you go consult?
I think for me, that's a very interesting question because it's we always operate from the perspective of it's not a cookie cutter. Yeah. I have not seen any of our customers in the past and what we're working with now that are exactly the same. So to Gaby touched on it earlier. Everyone's got different needs. Everyone's got different requirements. Everyone's got different hiring policies, which is interesting when you start looking at your leadership and where that's going. But for me, it's always interesting that you gotta work with those personalities, and they're not always the same person at the top or at the bottom. But you know what? Working across the globe, I'm sure you guys would confirm this. But I've met the same person in 10 different countries. They just look a little bit different, and they might have a few other affects, but their thinking is the same, their execution is the same, and you start knowing which ones to pick out and work with, and which ones are going to be your first follower, which one's going to be your influencer, all that kind of stuff. And I really think that it's important that people take that into account. You don't just walk into a place and try and make it yours as a consultant. It's the other way around. Like, you got to fit in with that culture. And this is where, for me over the years, and look, I'm just going to say it, bigger companies like, you know, your top 3 consulting companies, which I won't name, you can go Google it. Their missions are mainly to stay in companies and work with them as long as what they possibly can. They get incentives for bringing on more consultants, you know, and growing the company that way. Whereas, you know, I spoke to a guy yesterday. He works for one of them, and he's been in a job as a consultant for 8 years, doing exactly the same thing, but he's getting paid, you know, consultant rates. I was completely, you know, dumbfounded. Why wouldn't you just become an employee then? But for me, it's important that we realize a consultant's role is to be an expert, to come in, help your client, and get the hell out and manage the relationship, build that relationship. Because when they have problems again, they'll come back to you. It's not, you don't have to be so insecure about your, you know, your position. But now to your point, I don't, you know, some of them are very similar. Some of the engagements are similar, but most of them, everything is different. But the principles that we use to help them, everything stays the same. You just got to find the right shape to put that, you know, that block into. So yeah, it's been fun.
Gaby, anything to add there?
Well, so very similar. Like, you know, if we can understand the need of the customer good in a way that and genuinely help them out, I think my goal as well is not to stay with the customer. You know, keep it as short as possible, because you're trying to help them, you know, uplift their capabilities and provide them with service that they can be sustainable. So whatever you can do to kind of help them out, and which means going the extra mile, which means adding as much value as you can, and being flexible around the clock. So that's kind of distinguishing factors, because you're competing with a lot of cookie cutter approaches. So you have to think of, you know, I'm going to get whatever organization at where they're at, and I'm gonna leave them, you know, they're gonna leave me better, right, than when they got me. So that's the key.
Nice. So I mean, we're bringing this to a wrap and to a conclusion, and I have one question that's on the mind of a lot of the young entrepreneurs, not young as in like in their journey of entrepreneurship. A lot of people, especially the ones when they go into the service industry, you're doing coaching, you're going in to be a consultant, you're doing lean manufacturing. The first thing you get into when you get into a client, especially when you're dealing with, you know, small to mid-sized companies, because the big boys have been outsourcing and doing consulting forever. First thing is like, oh man, this is going to be core. I want to hire internal. So I don't know if I'm going to take you. I like you, but I think I need to fill this position full time. What is the benefit of having an outside consultant like you, Riaan, Gaby, like you, or like myself, to come in and give the business that boost it needs to go to the next level? Gaby, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, it's just the focused capabilities. I mean, in the sense that it's where a company is willing to invest. You know, there's not everything they have, and it goes back to what I was saying. When you're starting a business, you got to know your weaknesses. You're not necessarily going to be strong. There's not a single business out there that want to specialize in everything. But however, they know that they need a service. Now, hiring a full-time employee is a big commitment, and it's a long-term one. But sometimes you need a consultant for a focused capability increase, and you know, that could be the best thing to do, to just get them for that period, or get the solution that they're offering you, because it's already thought out and it's already, you know, developed and matured. So it would cost the organization less to have that, and then maintain it. You know, maintain whatever the consultant provides you. So it's a weighing game. They have to know what their weaknesses are, that they don't want to necessarily invest into having an employee, but fast track it, and they get that with consultants.
Nice. Riaan, how about yourself?
Well, I've been in some pretty good situations and some pretty bad ones, but I think for me, like I said earlier, when you're internal resource, you've got very limited powers, yeah. And let's say, as a lean manager or as a lean, facilitator or whatever, you've got. Can you hear my lawnmower going?
No, it's actually very clear.
Oh, that's good. So that's about to change. But for me, being a lean manager, I was over the whole of Asia Pacific for a company, on their lean journey, is you can only be as effective as what your leadership allows you to be. You need your leadership to back you up with everything that you do. Otherwise, you do run into problems. But the fun part is, as a consultant, you come in with some credibility. You come in with some seniority, yeah. People see you. We call it the cockroach effect sometimes, because as soon as you open up the door, people just scatter away, and you find them in a lunchroom, or I've had people get in their cars and go home and all kinds of stuff, because people know things are about to change. And there's a lot of companies out there that, look, I'm all for promoting from within. It's like, but build those skills, make sure you got the right people that you're going to promote, but then also give them a resource that's external, that, we go to 10 different clients in a week. We can see what other people are doing, and maybe some of that's applicable to you. In our training, we say, 99% of problems in the world's already been solved. You just don't know about it because it's been solved in a different industry, or it's been solved in a different, organization. So if you don't go out there and go look for it, you're not going to find it. And if you're an internal resource, I mean, I love these guys because we work with them all the time, because we provide them with training and facilitation and skills. But, at some stage, you have to reach outside just to get out of that mindset of, this is what I'm doing. Just look to your left, look to your right, see what everyone else is doing, and then implement that or experiment. I love experimentation. It's like, it's the only way you get to stuff. But tell people you're experimenting, yeah? Don't just go do it and then say, oh, well, that didn't work. That was an experiment. So everything that fails, you call an experiment. It's like, no, let's start from the start, design of experiments. We're going to be doing this. We're going to time it. We're going to see what the results is. And then we're going to either adopt it or not. So for me, coming in from an outside as a consultant is a lot more fun, because I tend to have, or we always have contracts in place. We need support from the senior leadership. We need support from, middle management. We need support from the guys on the floor. And if we're not going to get that support, if we get told from the start we won't get that support, it's not worth our time. That's when we walk away, or we make a different plan, or we say, look, maybe you should try a different company, because we need your support. We can't build it from the bottom up. And look, we've had some good conversations over the years with some of the leaders who just doesn't have time for it or anything like that. But the whole thing is, if your change is important to you, you will find the time to do it. It's like your health. It's like, I don't go to the gym because I don't have time. It's like, yes, but if your health was important to you, or you want to build muscle, you'll wake up half an hour earlier and you'll go to the gym. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So for me, inside resources are extremely important. You need people that know their people, know how to act with them, know how to, how far they can push the limits. But for me, you need an outside consultant with, that's got the right personality for your business to take you to the next level. And then check in. It doesn't have to be an expensive exercise, but really focus in on how you can help that customer then grow to that next level. And that's about it. I mean, that's the most important thing for me.
Just to add to that point as well, when you're hiring an external consultant, you're hiring someone that saw hundreds of companies, right?
Exactly.
So you're not just hiring an individual, you're hiring like insights that are gathered from multiple industries. You're pretty much giving them a summary of insights and benchmarks and saving them time from really like looking outside of their industry, right? So that's something that cannot go unnoticed.
And Gabby, that's what that's been one of our biggest selling points is we are a hands-on resource provider.
That's
You
it.
know, we don't just do consulting. If you want me to organize, you know, HR, if you want me to, go out and find someone for a specific role, or if you want to do some problem solving, that kind of stuff, then you've got a spare resource. You're already paying the person. It doesn't mean you're going to pay him just or her just for that one specific thing, but you've got a resource that's hands-on that will go and do the stuff that you need to get done and then hand it over to the company. So
Exactly.
I agree. I think
it's a lot of fun.
I think running a business involves a lot of pivoting.
Yes.
You have to have one vision.
Yep.
The strategy's got to be, we got to try to accomplish our vision. In the process of getting there, hurdles, like we spoke at the beginning of the podcast, you're not in control of everything. There's geopolitical things that happen. There's technology that happens. There's innovation. And you need to have that agility in order to be able to adjust yourself. You need to pivot. So when you hire people full-time, they're there with you. It's much more difficult to get them to be that versatile because not everybody you hire is that versatile. I also think that you're inside your business. You're looking at your canvas like this close.
Exactly. Yep.
You're living in it. You're inside the forest. Every now and then, you need a guy that's going to come in one of those little big balloons that floats from on top. And he's like, hey, buddy, you've been spinning in circles trying to get out of the forest, but you're in the exact same, 10 meters by 10 meters. If you just kept going straight, you always get this close to getting out. You're always this close. So how about this? If you do 1, 2, 3, and trust me. Okay?
Yep.
And that to me is the biggest thing. Trust me. I see it from above. You're inside. Walk with me through the process.
Yep.
And you'll find yourself outside that forest. And I think that's where the consultant comes in. There's different types of consultants, and different stages will require different ones. You'll hear plenty of guys online, make us scale your business. We're going to grow your business, right? But once your company's started, one of the most fundamental things is you want to get out the door with products. You want to do things for clients. A lot of manual, clunky things.
Yep.
Where you're going to need one of us, or maybe a combination of all three of us, which we've done in the past, is how do you lean out your operations so you can free up your resources to help you innovate and go make other things that you could sell and make money with? How do you free your systems? That's where our type of consultants come in. And in the process, someone like Riaan or Gaby will be able to help you with extra resources, etc. So let's do this. Everyone, you get 1 minute of a final thought to close out the podcast, and I'll close it up for all of us after. Remember, we get a lot of requests for people that need advice. People reach out to us on private messages on LinkedIn. I would highly recommend you go to our MyNect, and you'll find the link at the bottom. So MyNect app. Try to connect with one of us. You can book our consulting time on the app. And if you have questions, the good thing about MyNect is you can ask us specific questions and we can respond back with a specific answer. Or you can book, 15, 20, or 1 hour just to get yourself started. Because the best thing about being an entrepreneur is get started. Get started. So Riaan, would you give us your closing thoughts before we wrap up our podcast?
Look, my closing thoughts is I'm very happy we've started recording these conversations because we've had so many of them, and truly for me it's been really, really helpful because it's nice to bounce ideas off people and get that back. So look, I hope we will build this, we'll scale it. Hopefully we get a few people involved. But look, my final thoughts is, look, the times we're living in calls for different approaches. We can't keep doing the same thing and keep getting the same results and be happy with it. These days we got to get creative. We got to stick our necks out. We got to try and find the solutions to problems that's never existed before. But that's the fun part. We got to look at it as an experience, because none of us get out of this alive. Yeah. So for me, the part is, if you're not enjoying something, stop doing it. But if you do enjoy something, find a way of monetizing it, and find a way how you can do that for, a living, or how you can involve other people and make it a reality. So look, we've got our company out there. We've got Cancelled, we've got Lean Six Sigma Academy, we've got IT services. But at the end of the day, it depends on the person itself, if they're going to have the gumption to reach out and get the help they need, because that's how it works.
Awesome. Thank you. And by the way, I love the fact that you mentioned the genesis of how this podcast started. It's been a few years. We sit with each other on regular basis, almost weekly basis. We have these conversations, and the last few have been very intense because of a lot of our experiences.
Yes.
And I remember sitting, and we were all at the same time. We're like, man, why don't we just record these things? Like, it could benefit other people. We have these conversations that are so rich. It's got a wealth of knowledge and years of experience, hardship, okay?
Yeah.
Failures that we've surmounted because of our resilience that we would love to share with you, okay? Gaby, your closing thoughts, please.
Well, look, I'm happy that we're getting this opportunity. We, us three are gathered and united into. We have a similar philosophy, which is a service first attitude. I think we all have this vision between us three, which is, we want to serve the many. And we know that a lot of people out there, and I've interacted with a lot of people in the last bit, which are stuck for various reasons. And what I want to say as a message from this podcast, and to anyone that's listening, is that it's possible that you are stuck and you're feeling that nobody can relate or nobody can understand you, but we are three resources here that are that are easy to reach, and Malak gave you some of the ways that you could reach us amongst others. So I would encourage everybody to kind of reach out to us and see what we can do to connect. We are there to serve as well. That's a part of the way that we're working. So we do offer value, and we offer, a lot of things that will help help you, your team, and your organization at multiple levels, from the experiences that we've acquired all together around the table. So service is the name of the game.
Love it. It is very well said. We are on plenty of platforms. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on X, LinkedIn for sure, for all business updates.
Yeah.
If you want to book time with us, connect with us on MyNect. For sure, you'll be able to book some time, either get a video face-to-face live, or if you have a specific question, write your question, and depending on the means you choose, we can respond back by a text, by an audio answer or a video answer. It's very effective and efficient. I would highly recommend it. My conclusion or my wrap up to this is as follows. By far, one of the toughest things or decisions I've done in my life was to go the entrepreneur route. I've always had it inside me since I was a kid, started my first business at 10 years old. But unfortunately, one of the things they don't teach us in engineering is how to run a business. We become great problem solvers. 4 years of brainwashing, how to become a problem solver, how to be analytical, how to look at facts. But how to go on your own and figure out how to look at a financial statement, or build a mission and a vision statement, or be able to communicate it to people as you start growing your business. It's not that easy. But every time, someone who's wanting to start a business talks to me and he goes, so what do I do? What do I do? I say, start. If you've got it inside you, if you're not happy where you are and you've got a dream, start. Take a step, surround yourself with the right people, like Riaan said. Know your why, but start. Start, fail, and fail quickly. and get up.
Yep.
Okay. We will be having many more podcasts. If you want to know more, and as you see them coming, go down, ring that bell, subscribe to the channels that the videos are on, follow us individually on Instagram, get to know who we are. We try to be as genuine as we can be. All three of us have, known these guys for a few years. I mean, Gaby's my brother. I've known him since he was born, but, hence the same last name. But follow us, ask questions. We're here to help. More importantly, we want to answer also some of your questions right on the podcast. So in the comments, tell us what you want the next podcast to be about. Share with us your thoughts. What intriguing questions? If you don't want to connect on MyNect and you don't want to pay for the consulting hours, write down in the comments, interact with it and say, I have a question. Put it down if it's not personal to your business, and it will be a pleasure to make a podcast session or at least have it as a segment in the next podcast. It's been a true pleasure, gentlemen. I love the fact that we actually clicked record. When Ryan, he said, I'm like, how are we going to prepare this? He's like, just click record and let's go. So I love the fact that this was done on the fly. It wasn't prepared or, well orchestrated. Everyone, we look forward to having you. Follow us, connect with us. We can't wait to keep creating content just for you. Thank you very much. And to the next podcast. Have a good one.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.